Good afternoon. My name is Jan Jorgensen, of course. If you watch me on the YouTube channel, Jan Jorgensen Be the Light and Soar. And I am featuring different human beings, usually women, who are bringing what I call new pieces of information to give us larger toolkits to move forward at this particular time. And my guest today, you're going to love this. Her name is Allison, Allison, Allison Wonderland. So I'd love for you to say hello to our guest today.
Right. Hello. My name is Allison, and my van is actually called Wonderland. My last name is Gee, Gee, and I named my van Wonderland because it's kind of that play on Alice in Wonderland, and I'm exploring Wonderland in my van that I built out for like van life and long-term travel. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. I'm sure people are already tuning in saying, I just love the creativity and joy of this woman. And so let's start out by just doing a little background check. I can already guarantee the listeners she is a new paradigm person, and she did mention that as a child she had visions of a parallel reality similar to my daughter. So we're going to weave all this in. You are a very special person, enabling people to have a self-sustaining experience no matter where they go. And we know the third dimension is dissolving as we speak, and we are spiritualizing matter. So moving forward as our temple, our home with our own energy field is so important. But Allison, tell us a little bit about your childhood, your envisioning, and what led you to being such a master at living out of a van.
When I was a kid, I had a whole planet imagined inside my head, and I thought that it was another planet or just in my imagination. Kids, everyone says, "Oh, it's you have such an active imagination." And then as I got older, I saw that maybe this planet that I'd had in my head was actually similar to what Earth could be in our future. So I wrote it in a book called New Paradigm Planet as an adult. And um, then I have also lived in at the time it was an off-grid eco-village in Missouri for a few years called Dancing Rabbit, and that really taught me a lot about green living. And when I moved back to Seattle, I was at a conference at a ranch where people go out into the field. It's called ESETI, and they look in the sky for spaceships. And I was at this conference there, and I saw all of these lights on the mountain that's near the ranch, and I noticed that other people couldn't really see as many lights as I was looking at, and I was just whooping and hollering and cheering. And I tried to I think these new paradigm people are telepathic, so I tried to ask them, like, what do I have to do to visit you or to see how you live, or to live like you, to raise our vibration as a human, to so that we can meet in person someday. And I just got this knowingness back that said all you have to do is create a society where no one has to use money for the basic necessities needed for survival. And when I came home, I had this big idea in my head for something called the humanitarium, which is basically like a new earth city. So it was kind of like just an idea in the cloud right now. And most recently in Washington, and the cost of living is extremely high, and I couldn't really afford retirement savings. I was, at 36 years old, I'm 38 now, but I had no retirement savings. And I thought, I can't afford to save for retirement and pay rent. So living in a vehicle seemed like a really smart move. And this year I became a nanny, so I am no longer dependent on living full time in a vehicle someday. But I did, with the help of family, I was able to purchase a van and build it out for van life, off-grid living. And I have a piece of land now in a suburb I call my fairy garden, and it's vacant. There's no like hookups for anything there, and I plan to do something off-grid there where I can stay either temporarily and recreate, or do something there that's also off-grid. And I'm really excited to teach other people how to do these things for themselves.
Well, this is very exciting, and there's a part of me of always being so tied into having a home and security that I was thinking, your emotional state sounds like it was very supported towards this is sustainable living rather than I'm a homeless person living in my car.
Yeah.
And that's the twist of the new way of thinking. Simplicity, living on less. So for those that are contemplating it in a positive way, not from scarcity, but actually retraining ourselves about using resources, what are the first ahas that you had moving from a regular house into a van? Your sensory system, bathroom, temperature, ventilation.
Well, it's definitely a mindset shift. And I do want to be clear that I'm not totally dependent on being in my van all the time, but I do stay in there for long periods of time, like several days when I go to my land or I go, on a trip or something. And I do have a very small room in a shared house that's 100 square feet. So it's a very tiny living still. Most of my adult life, everything I own has fit in 100 square feet. So when I thought about actually the choice to live in a vehicle and the freedom that that lifestyle affords a person, it was definitely a mindset shift. And a lot of people worry about, how am I going to make money remote or off grid? And I read a book by another nomad that helped me sort of make that mindset shift, and find work that I could do based on the skills I had. I'd worked as an admin assistant in the office. I had childcare experience. I could teach online. I could do admin stuff. I am a virtual assistant now, as well as being a nanny, and I can do gig work. Like, people, they drive for Uber and they deliver food, but you can also do tasks, and you can take care of pets, and you can do cooking for people, just like at will work. And so that is really like sustainable for a mobile lifestyle. And I just found that once you make that shift in your mind, that this is a choice and it can offer me freedom that a sticks and bricks house does not afford me, it's so liberating and so freeing. And now I'm just like, I will never buy a house that is stuck to the ground without having a vehicle that I can also stay overnight in for several days.
You've brought up so many wonderful points there. And the first one for me was sustainable living through community connection and resourcing. In other words, being available for services that other people need, and also being mobile to go out to other communities and avail yourself of their gifts and to share your gifts with them. This is certainly the golden ticket for the new paradigm,
Yes.
and it is speaking very much to the SOAR template that I have created, and speaking that we are mobile and we are messengers, and that we are going out and sitting within other circles of other homes and communities and sharing our gifts. That's what we're doing in this interview. And they come and be with us. We can't do that if we have full-time jobs and we're trying to have fancy houses and lives. So
Right.
you are reforming the idea of what it means to be an adult. So my question for you is, how does this look towards relationships, potentially having a family? Have you thought, your future? How does that roll out for you?
Yeah, well, I'm 38, and when I was a lot younger, I thought I did want to grow up and have a family and have children someday, but I'm getting older, so I don't know that I will ever birth children from my own body. But when people ask me if I have children now, I just say, yeah, I have other people's children. I take care of other people's children in their family. I identify as being a relationship anarchist, that I practice consensual non-monogamy. So just the idea of having to like be with only one person for the rest of my life and build a family that way is not my paradigm. So I could be in a polyamorous family someday, which is a very big possibility for me. And I I've read about people that do live in their vehicles or a vehicle type mobile situation with their significant other, or with kids, or I actually have friends that are doing that. And it does seem like people get even a different type of upbringing or education, or like you said, we have, everybody has talents, everybody has gifts, and we can cultivate those as an individual, and then we can go out in the world and share those. So for me, life in my future is an adventure, and I'm excited to see what it brings.
You know, it's funny you said adventure because that was the next word that was going to come out of my mouth. To go out into the road is an adventure, and there's so much unknown. And there's also the tendency sometimes to use our fears to keep doors shut for the potential connections. So for myself, I am building internal trust and also a vibrational field that only things that are meant for me to experience and resonate with. Tell me about your experience with trusting going out as a solo woman into the world where, I mean, there's wolves, there's, there's a lot of situations.
And definitely people, my friends, I can see people's families would be concerned about them too, going out and if they're safe or not. And a lot of van lifers or mobile lifers are single women, and some of them say that they actually feel safer out on the road than they would in their house in the city. And you do need to be aware and have like self-defense and emergency response in the back of your mind. But I think if you do your own internal work, because it does, I think this type of lifestyle does call for someone to do some internal work and be self-reflective and work on, their emotions, their spirituality, their mental health and well-being, and physical health and well-being. And I thought of, someday having a dog or a pet, as a companion to keep me company and have some emotional support on a constant basis that way. And I would say to people that are living like a different paradigm lifestyle to, and this was true for me in the eco village as well, is just really keep your emotional support system or your mental health support system, your physical support system, just keep your support systems around and make sure that you are that you're living day to day in a joyous place and not, spiraling down off the deep end. And if you do feel like that, then you do get help, and
It's funny. I was thinking that it's almost as if you have to be a mature adult to go out on the road. And then I'm thinking, well, for some people, that will help them mature into becoming an adult, standing on their own. You mentioned support systems. And for myself, I'm going out maybe a month at a time. And let me tell the viewers, the reason I'm going out is that the environment I live in, I have access to beautiful homes, a forest, waterfront, but it does seem that the mold and funguses here, we're in a mini rainforest ecosystem, we're causing quite a bit of inflammation,
Mhm.
neurological brain, twitching, all sorts of weird things. And I notice when I go to drier places, I feel better. So Spirit said, don't you see? We're nudging you out of your nest. You're, the upper middle class, and I can just, ride the comfort zone. And so we're not in a place to sell the home. So I said, well, I guess I'm going to go out on the road. And I got so excited for the adventure. However, how wonderful it is that I'm resourced, that I have a community and a home and friends to come home to. Sometimes these days it's not just a physical home base, but even friends on Zoom.
Yes.
Describe to me what your support network looks like and how it functions.
Well, when you were talking, one thing that came to my mind was when I learned about van life and mobile lifestyles, I went on Meetup and Facebook and social media, and I learned about different groups that I could join for my area that were van life groups, and they have meetups. Somebody will post, hey, I'm going to be at the beach at so and so today, or on this day, come out and hang out. And that's also like a way to meet people and have a support system, see other people's vehicles that they live in. So to find your group, find your tribe, even if it's like you move around. I go to festivals. I do have friends at home in Seattle, and I will go to events that are just full of people that are very like positively aware. And so I think as a person out on the road, you can go to these different places and you can find like a home in meeting other people. And sometimes it's just like they're just like your best friend, even though you've never met them. You can meet somebody and it's like, wow, we're all doing this crazy cookie like thing together, that we're traveling out here. And sometimes you can really make friends doing that.
I'm just thinking that sometimes people that have the least material have the least to protect, and they're most open-hearted and have the most to give for time and food and presence and love. Um, I do have a little tip for the listeners. My friend Aubin has been out now, maybe 9 months. And so she's a stream of the fan, a little cooler, and USB, blah, blah, blah. And it's such a wonderful learning curve.
Mhm.
But I know that you're probably not earning a lot of income big enough to afford to go to a festival.
Oh, that's not
Or,
true at all.
well, she's doing volunteer
Oh,
work.
she is. I thought you were talking about me.
No, she's doing the volunteer work so that she can go to the festivals and the different places. So let's go back
Oh,
to you.
yeah.
So you're finding that your van life, that I love that great name, the van life, is giving you the money and stability for exchanging for going to places and doing activities that you desire to go to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I was solely in my van and I wasn't paying the minuscule rent on my tiny, tiny room, it would be about 500 a month for um living expenses, food, van auto expenses, and maybe taxes on the tiny land that I have. And so that's feels really doable to me. And I do live in a city where the cost of living is ginormous. I think the median household income here is almost 100,000. So like at least half of the households in Seattle earn about six figures, and it is a very tech heavy city. But here, if I do gig work, if I'm charging 30 an hour, that seems like an average amount. That's a living wage in Seattle. 30 to 35 an hour is a self-sufficient wage for a person paying a rent on a one-bedroom apartment, perhaps. So I have given this advice to people besides the book that this woman who wrote the book, it's called Work from Home While You Roam, and her name is Robin Barrett, and that helped me tremendously. It was written before COVID, so there are some things in there that the links might not be like uh up to date always, but the information is up to date, and it really helped me shift my mind that living in a vehicle, before I thought living in a vehicle means I have to make less money, and that's certainly not true at all. I can do gig work, I can do the nannying that I love, I can do admin work and be a virtual assistant, and that is very fulfilling and sustaining. I can go anywhere, be anywhere, and live anywhere as long as I have a connection to the internet. So that is just freeing in itself. You can do a job either part-time or full-time even, and it sustains your lifestyle. And you can do those things like go to festivals, even if you, like, for instance, I was a preschool teacher and I was making near minimum wage. And as a person renting a space, I would not be able to be as prolific to go to festivals multiple times a year and go out and do these trips all the time. But, you know, if I was only in the van 100%, that the wage that I was getting as a preschool teacher, I would be able to afford more of those things, because more would go to fun things and less would go to just like the rent part.
I love how you figured it out in a very realistic way. And some of these bullet points you're making, people are starting to shift some of their stuck ideas about their lives and choices. So
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. I love it.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I have fun.
And
Um,
actually, I made a spreadsheet of my time management before the van life stuff and after, you know, what I would be doing, and I would just spend my times totally differently. So funny.
Not in front of that television, being distracted with other people's lives for binging hours on end. Okay, so in a practical sense, so this morning I'm in a committee and I said, well, I'll be out on the road. And they said, oh, will you be on Zoom? I need to know how do I keep my computer charged and my
Yes.
phone, and help me.
Okay, so I have a portable power station. There are different companies that make these things. I have one called a Blue Eddy, and there's another company called Jackery, and there are different companies that make these things, and they're getting a lot more affordable now. It's basically a box, kind of like this big, and it connects to solar panels. And mine was when at the time I bought it, it was around $1,000 for the box and the solar panels, and that was 1/4 of my van bill, but it was so worth it. I can get that thing and I can charge it in the sun. And I read recently that you can use grow lights to charge your solar panels, and the grow lights can be plugged into the power station that it's charging. So that's a funny thing that I came across recently. I want to try on my vacant land. So you have your portable power station, and you want to make sure you get a big enough one for the things you want to run. Mine runs my laptop, charges my phones, and if I wanted to run more heavy duty appliances, say like my Instant Pot or blender, I would need a bigger one than I have right now for my van. But that is, you know, they're getting cheaper and cheaper, so you might want to wait for a sale around the holidays and things. So you have your portable power station, and to get internet, there are companies out there that provide internet to nomads, to people that are roaming around, and their service is to provide you high speed, fast internet, even in rural areas. And that's just a box that you'll just carry around with you. And also on my phone, my cell phone service, I can get a cell signal booster, and I can make my phone a Wi-Fi hotspot. So that is also how I've done some virtual assistants out on the road when I haven't been at home, is I just turn the hotspot on my phone and I do work that way. And it's and also the portable power station can plug into an outlet. So, you know, like, I don't know how silly this is going to be to say, but I might go to the coffee shop or the library and hang out and just like charge my charge my power station and put it in my backpack and haul it away. I don't know. I thought if I ran out, you know, I couldn't have the sun because it's very gloomy in Seattle, that I would figure out ways to just have the power station charged. So those are the ways you can have electricity, you can run your appliances just like you would in your home, you can have internet, you can charge your computer, and you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm out of touch with civilization. Even though you're in a rural place, no one else is getting cell service, but you got your cell signal booster and your internet and you're set.
I'd love to take a tour of your van sometime, and I've been keeping track of Auburn adding the solar panels, and I'm looking at little power things that have solar panels on top
Yeah.
versus plugging in. This is a big learning curve. So tell me, I know that your van probably has a personality, maybe even a name.
It's
Tell
called
me,
Wonderland.
Wonderland. Yes,
Yeah.
of course, that's her name. Um, Tell me about when you walk in, what do you see and what's there? For instance, a toilet. How do you
Right.
sleep? How do you
So
write?
I call myself a van life minimalist because it's not just I have minimal living, but I am a minimalist mobile lifestyler. I do have a video on my YouTube channel of the tiny van tour, and um mostly what I have is two bench seats over the wheel wells and a bed platform. And inside the bed platform goes all of the stuff, kitchen stuff, bathroom stuff, like utility stuff. And then I have a little cart outside to do things like set my computer on, or I have these ceramic tiles that I can put on top of the cart and put my stove on it. And the stove is like really small and it fits on a propane tank. So everything folds up really tiny. And I do have a composting toilet, although I've never found that I have had to like use it on a regular basis without just like using it once and like emptying it or burying my droppings in the woods. But it folds, and so there's just, it folds down to like a 2-inch wide disc, and it goes under the bed platform. And I do have a foldable bathtub. I think it was developed in Asia somewhere, and you just sit in it, and I could have a bath if I wanted to. So all, it's kind of like you have to think about all the rooms in your house becoming one room. And my van is very small. It's 35 square feet in the back. It's like a mini cargo van. But if you, and I'm a very petite lady, I'm 4 feet 10 inches tall, so I can lay widthwise in my 5 foot by 7 foot cargo area van. And one thing that I also tell everybody that I did to get a mattress was I went and I bought from online from the Purple Mattress Company, but I bought a large pet bed. So I bought their version of a mattress for pets, for animals, for large animals that are like 100 pounds, which is near my weight. And I also discovered if you put two of those large pet beds together, you have the same size as a full size bed. And the reason that I recommend this to mobile life people is because it's comfortable to sleep on, but it is not one of these giant regular sized mattresses that are just so heavy to haul around when you try to move anywhere. So I can just take the mattress off my bed platform. I can fold it up to be a bench if I want. I can put my cooler underneath, and my cooler holds ice for 5 days, and or it stays cold for 5 days, and I put the ice in a container so it doesn't get everything wet, but it stays cold. And I've seen people also, I don't really feel like I have to worry too much about AC in the Pacific Northwest. There we do have some hot days, but I have seen people get something, I think it's called an icy breeze or some such name, and it's a cooler, but it's also an AC. And you put the ice in and then that's how it cools things. But I would also recommend, if you are using ice on a regular basis, to just get an ice machine. That they make an appliance called the ice machine, plug it into your portable power station, and all you need is water. Just add water and you have lots of ice. And what I hope in the future, for the future of mobile lifestyles, I see electric cars coming out, and Volkswagen is supposed to have an electric microbus in a couple years. And I think that an electric vehicle will be a lot more, I'll save a lot on not buying fossil fuels, and maybe it will be efficient on long trips. And also I see that people are developing flying vehicles, and I hope that someday we'll have a flying mobile home, and that will just, it could be a flying saucer, I don't know, but that I think will change how people think about their lives, how they live, when they can just fly their house somewhere. You want to visit your friend on the other side of the country today? Sure, that's realistic.
That's all definitely coming. I see that as well. Boy, you are just checking all my boxes for questions,
Oh,
and
good.
I think that I wanted to put myself into a kamikaze. I'm actually going out in my SUV. It's not even a van.
Right.
It's a Subaru. And because I just want this experience, and I was thinking I'd get a tent, I'd go camping, But I'm listening to you. There's no need with a proper outfitted van to
That's right.
go to the campsite. So where do you stay overnight?
Well, people do um live in their SUVs and in conventional cars. I would recommend carrying a tent with you though, because some campsites they don't want you to sleep in your vehicle. They want to know that they want to think that you're going to sleep in a tent. So what you can do is put the tent up to have your placeholder at your campsite, even if you don't sleep in it. And what I also thought of doing, which I'm going to maybe experiment on at my vacant land, is an ice fishing shelter, because that folds up and then it folds out into like an insulated shelter. But I have mostly parked on residential streets, believe it or not, to stay overnight in my van. I work at holistic fairs, and I go, like I said, festivals. I have land in a suburb. I don't stay, I don't need to pay for my lodging. I don't stay at hotels or anything. So I just find a regular place to park on the street. And the trick, a lot of van lifers or mobile lifestyle people say, arrive late and leave early. If you find a parking lot, like I've also stayed overnight in parking lots that I knew would not be used. And like a school parking lot on a weekend or a church parking lot when it's not Sunday, and just arrive late, leave early so that nobody's using the lot. And if they have, and my van looks like a service vehicle, so I just park next to the other service vehicle looking things. And if they do have security, someone might knock, and you just be nice and say, oh yeah, hey, I'll move on. I've never gotten a knock on my van or my door unless it was like my mom. I stayed in her driveway in another town up north, and so unless it's someone that I know and who knows that I'm there, I've never had a stranger knock on my van and being like, are you sleeping in that? You gotta leave. So I've always felt really safe. Just if you can use your intuition and see, like, does this feel like a safe place? And I often ask, like, I believe in all kinds of spiritual things, but I ask, that the higher powers keep me safe, happy, healthy, wealthy, and well on my trip when I go on a long trip. So I like to think that someone is looking out for me.
I love the energy that you're bringing to this endeavor, this new lifestyle. And you're not just giving practical information, but a lot of hope, because people are afraid that becoming a person holding a different vibration, that they're going to be losing their stability. What they're gaining is, as I hear you speak, freedom,
Yeah.
choice, travel, enjoyment, more value for their money, for the things that they love to do. I feel like that we could talk forever. I have a couple more things I wanted to
Sure.
touch upon. They've introduced me to apps, and I think I'd
Yeah.
love to have a store app, so for women who are doing the exchanges in the Divine Feminine community, know what is available and where to go. But do you use apps for connecting into community other than social media?
I When I learned about mobile lifestyles, I did learn about several apps that would be useful, especially if I was doing this full time. And I do have them on my phone, but I haven't actually used them to look for something yet. But I've gone in and been like, wow, this is so cool. So there is an app, like I don't remember what all the names are, but I can tell you generally the premise of the app so you can go find them yourself. There's apps that will tell you where the cheapest gas is. And I think maybe also the cheapest lodging, or are apps that will tell you where the free campsites are. And also there, you can um, use you can use these apps. Like I just use Google Maps, and sometimes that tells me where the cheapest gas is. Or I think, okay, the gas is going to be cheaper in a suburb. I'm going to go there and I'm going to do my grocery shopping there before I come back to the city. So it's like thinking about things that way. You're not tied to where you live anymore for your resources. So I really love that. And there is a place also I heard about called Harvest Hosts, which you can sign up for and have a subscription. And they're just like these farms or museums or just like different businesses out across the United States, at least I know of. And they will let you stay overnight on their property, maybe one night. And there are certain, I don't think that my van would qualify because I don't have a gray water and sewage, formal gray water and sewage system, even though I do take care of that myself. But I think you have to have that to be accepted in Harvest Host stay overs. But that is also, I don't know if they do have an app, but I know they have a website. They must have an app. I would think they must. They have an app to show you where all the Harvest Host stops are, so you can just find a place overnight that not everybody might know about.
If
And
I
also
can find,
get a Discover Pass, which you can do for your car. And I have used that also, just staying in national parks overnight, even like go where people go hiking, park at the trailhead. You want to be careful though, because that is a place sometimes where there's thievery. I did have my van broken into one time in a parking garage in Seattle at Christmas time, and they didn't even take anything, and they didn't break like a window. And I said to people, how could they have gotten in? And people were like, Slim Jims. They can people have devices, like thieves have devices that can open your car. And I was like, oh, that's so scary. So like, honestly, I write a note and I leave it in my passenger side folds down and becomes like a tray table thing. And I leave the note for the thieves every time I leave my van, and it says, dear thieves, I am poor, so you will only find crap in here to take to Goodwill, because that is where I shop. You didn't want any of it when you came in last time at Christmas, so don't bother, and we can keep our karma to ourselves. Thanks, the cargo van owner. So, and I mean, people have done funny things like stuck newspapers in my my mirror that were about like mental health help and where to get homeless help and stuff, flyers. And I'm just like, I don't need that, but I'm so appreciative that people cared enough about me to be like, oh, this person might need some help.
you are walking a new path powerfully. And how does the choices that you're making now and living, and I wrote it down, minimalist, mobile lifestyle, weave into your childhood pictures of a new world? What do you see? How do we live in the future?
I did see that we had electric, well, in this planet, people traveled very different, like they may have used similar modes of travel, but it wasn't like this fossil fuel guzzling. There wasn't this sense of scarcity mentality that we have here. And we've all sort of grown up with this scarcity. Oh my gosh, there might not be enough. There might not be enough resources. The planet's overpopulated. Oh my heavens, like we're doing everything wrong. But in the planet that I imagined when I was a kid, it was a sense of abundance before scarcity. And I just really hope that in the future, we will make that switch in our consciousness to open our minds up to the fact that nature itself is more abundant than we could ever ask of it. And it can support billions and billions of people on this planet if we're living in harmony with nature. And I sort of, like I was saying earlier, I see like a future for ourselves that we do use electric or zero net energy devices that we can power our vehicles with. And I know that some of the electric vehicles now, they have to have a sound so people can hear the car coming, but they don't actually need the sound. They could be silent, so like we can have electric ships and boats and flying things, and we can go, I can go from Seattle to Japan in a matter of hours and just like hang out for the week and come back home. I don't know, like I just feel like the world's going to get smaller, just like it did with communication and the internet and technology. We're going to do that with our transportation and our lifestyle in the future, I think.
I love how you were hinting at abundance through simplicity. There is enough.
Yeah.
Just reallocate it and use less and live more from our hearts. I have enjoyed this time so much with you, and I'm blown away by your attitude and all the different ways you looked at it and this
Yeah.
positivity.
I did spend 3 or 4 months every day or almost every day after work coming home and just binging on all of the documentaries, YouTube videos, how to build out a van, how to live this way, how to like do all of this stuff in a mobile lifestyle. So like I crammed all that stuff in my head. And now when people have questions, I'm like, this is what I learned. It's so cool. Oh, and the water too. People ask me how I do my water, and I use collapsible water tank things I got at REI, like for camping, and mine are like 2.5 gallons instead of like big 5 or 10 gallon tanks, because I want to be able to carry it at a, I can just go to a park where they have a drinking fountain and fill it up, or something that simple, like at a public place where there's running water, you can get your water that you need. So that's another thing that popped in my
Well,
head to
thank you
say.
for
Yeah.
that, because that's on my checklist now, how to get water. So you have really inspired me and helped me in a practical sense, because since I have this sense of going out, and I'm calling it the Queen's Caravan Spiritual Walkabout Tour, and
Woohoo.
already garnered, there's 5 or 6 other women who are interested in meeting up, getting together, and doing the spiritual circles and offerings that I love to do. But we are following Spirit's orders these days, and I'm so glad that I listened in when you were recommended to just talk to. I said, I'm going to pick her brain, but why not do an interview so everyone benefits at the same time? I
Yeah.
also am putting my tour on Instagram, so you just go to Sound and Light Healing Arts. So back to you. I would love for you to have some final comments for everyone who's considering doing this, or just about your lifestyle, and what you might need from listeners, and how they can contact you or get your book. Just kind of a big gestalt wrap up.
Yeah, so my website is allisonwonderland.info for my mobile lifestyle and consulting and my van build out, and you can learn a lot there. And I do have videos from my YouTube channel there. And my book that I wrote about the planet inside my head is at newparadigmplanet.com. So those are ways to learn more about me and reach me. And what I really want to say to everybody as some final words, if you're considering doing this, if any thoughts come up of, oh, I can't do that, oh, this is too hard, oh, I wouldn't be able to, whatever, I want you to tell those thoughts, thanks for your service, and you're no longer welcome here because I can do it. And it's going to lead me to a life of freedom that I never imagined. I also had all those thoughts come up at first, and I just want to so encourage people that they can do it. And it might be like a dream come true if you actually step into that place and have that freedom. And you want to go back, you might never think of your life the same way again, even if you do choose to live in a house or an apartment or whatever. You decide maybe full-time mobile lifestyle is not for you, you want to have a home base, like you'll never think about your life the same way again if you just open your mind and be free.
And there you have it, folks. A big, bright invitation from Alice in Wonderland, who is a definite spark plug to help that new paradigm come a little bit closer through her visions and her work and her grounded practical nature. Thank you again, and I'm going to sign off. I am Jan Jorgensen at soundandlighthealingarts.com.